Welcome to the I Don't Believe in Astrology podcast. The podcast is dedicated to conscious souls looking to change the world. Astrologer by day, climate activist by night. Here is your host, Debra Silverman.
I am only human. I have my faults and my shadows that are as bright as the light that shines within.
This is unusual. Two little Gemini sitting in the middle of the space. Look up. I don't even know what that is. Tell you the honest truth. We're going to be very candid, very transparent. This is the Debra Silverman podcast. It's the I Don't Believe in Astrology podcast. You see behind us, move over to the right. See Gemini right there? That's what we both are. You can come back. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to my new best friend called Ash. Ash, we're going to give you a story. It's a story time. We're going to begin with how we met. And then he has this very significant story that inspired me and changed me from meeting him, which was not very long ago, but let's just pretend I've known him forever. It feels that way.
It does feel
It really
that way.
feels that way. But the storyline is about freedom and about the name of his Instagram is Illusion Slicer. So we're here to help assist. The nature of destiny is the big theme about this podcast, and how certain people have a calling that comes to them and they stay true to it, and then destiny unfolds. And everyone I've interviewed is one of those characters, including Ash. But Ash is a double Gemini. You're going to see his chart in a moment. And so he just found out he has 3 planets in Gemini. He got all excited.
I know. I was like, what?
And he's just new to astrology, as many of you are. And so we're not going to dwell on the astrology part. This is more about the conversation that has to do with destiny and clarity. Of not letting everyone outside of you get you off your path. Like this true conviction. He has Mercury in Taurus and Jupiter in Taurus. So he's got a very grounded. Let me just for a moment, because we like to do this, I'm going to pull up his chart and give you a chance just to have the first view. And that way, when I start talking about his chart, you guys are going to understand. So for those of you that know, here is his sun and moon in Gemini and Venus. They're in the 5th house of Leo. So he's a performer. You'll find that out. He's got Mars in Leo. He's going to perform for us during this. But the significant marker, the 2 significant markers of this chart is Neptune is sitting here opposite his sun. So here's Neptune at 12, and it's opposite his sun at 7, his moon at 8, his Venus at 2. There's a very strong opposition. This is the planet of illusions. Neptune rules illusions. So it's all about the distinct difference between what's behind the veil and what's in front of the veil, and how we get confused. And that's where illusion begins. Like, is that real or is that not real? And this is what he dances with all day. And then second and last, I want to point out Uranus sitting on the very top of his chart, which is what I have, and it rules astrology. He's just about to study astrology, and it has to do with a non-traditional revolutionary thought process that frees us of the bondage of normalcy. So Uranus just goes, do not follow. It was like when the Queen came over, when the Englishmen came over on the boat. This is when Uranus was found. They said, throw the tea over. We're not paying the Queen. Forget about her. Like, how dare you give up the old societal imprint? But that's what you've come to do, to update the societal imprint. And it's in Scorpio. So it's about sexuality as well.
Hey.
Which we're going to talk about. Okay, so just so you know, double Gemini in the 5th house, the entertainer, with Capricorn rising. He's very solid. You can't bump into, you can't really roll over this guy. And then Neptune opposite everything, making him the visionary, the dreamer, the illusion slicer, and the revolutionist, who will not let sexuality in its old form continue.
Wow. That is so amazing.
It's so amazing because he knows, like the deepest
Oh my gosh. I mean, I talk about soul print a lot, and it's like, this is a soul print.
Bingo. Yeah, and it's really
So-
good. So we're going to start with how we met. This is going to entertain you. It's such a funny story. And it's so much about Scorpio. We met at a funeral,
We did.
and it was a memorial.
A memorial funeral.
And we were
Yeah.
both asked to speak, 2 little Geminis, and I was trying to sneak out of the room because I, you know, you probably don't know this. I'm very good on the podcast and I'm very good on videos, but in real life, I'm like, can you just do the talking? But so I was like, do I have to talk? But before I got up, Ash got up and he spoke. And then I grabbed his phone, put my phone number in it. And because when you hear this poem, so we're going to start with a poem that he wrote that entered this funeral that made us into friends. And I'd love for you to hear it.
This is a poem that I wrote for a dear friend that we both have in common named Diane Israel.
He passed away.
He passed away. And the poem is called Human Beautiful. And it says, human being, yes. Human becoming, that too. But mostly human beautiful. Human dreaming, human awakening, that too. But mostly human beautiful. You are in the arms of those who loved you the most, in the heart of the peace you held so dear. One with the wind you longed for, there's no horizon in your eyes. You are the endless sky, ever present, always here. Countless lives were touched by your light, and countless more by your wounds. You gave permission for the ugliness we share to exist as beautiful to exist as lovable to exist as something worthy of a deep and honest welcome. Vulnerability, your superpower. No one has ever said the word fuck like you did. Fucking amazing, fucking wild, fucking beautiful, fucking precious. Oh my fucking God, I'm so grateful I got to meet you in the silence. That's the kind of meeting space no one can ever truly leave. Blessed to know our eyes met in the vast immediacy of a great mystery, somehow aware of itself now. Those moments are this moment. Those moments are this moment. And still the heart breaks at the thought that maybe for a moment you believed a rumor about anything anywhere being unacceptable and not enough. We've all been there. We've all been everywhere. And it just might happen that we frequent those distorted corridors again and again. Hold hands a bit tighter. Hold time a bit lighter, and breathe easy, that even in the unimaginable hurt of an empty seat and an empty bed and an empty feeling in your chest, fullness dances to the tune of joy, befriending death. And all is well. With tears, all is well. As we grieve, all is well. With unanswered questions, all is well. And never picking up the pieces, all is well. Human being, yes. Human becoming, that too. But mostly human beautiful. Human dreaming, human awakening, that too. But mostly human beautiful. Human breathing, yes. Human dying, that too. But mostly human beautiful. Mostly human beautiful.
Makes me want to cry.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know that Scorpio is on your midheaven. And so talking about death or taking us to the fierce, the places. So you're going to hear what Ash does for a living, but we're going to go in a little history journey. It all started, such an interesting story, when he was very young. How did we begin that story? We began with.
Was it the big year? Was it the Menudo? Was it the
Menudo? Let's start with the Menudo.
Menudo. Yeah, when I was 14 years old, I had a huge prayer to the universe. My father was diagnosed with AIDS when I was 12. And so I would go to sleep every night praying that, that they either take my voice to heal him as like an exchange, take my singing voice, that's what I knew as the most valuable part of who I was, and or do some miracle where my father can see me sharing what I love to share before he passed away. And then Menudo happens, at 14. And the reason why I said yes to Menudo was because my father was so thrilled and so excited.
And not everyone knows just because you think everyone knows what Menudo is.
Right. But a lot of people, Menudo was a Latin boy band, started in 1977. I got in the band in 1991. There's a documentary on HBO Max called Menudo Forever Young that you can go watch if you'd like to learn about the history of it. And I got in the group in 1991. So Menudo was already 14 years old by the time I got into the group.
And they played to huge audiences. Give them the size of the range.
Oh my gosh, it was insane. We do stadium tours. We travel all over the world, mostly South America, Central America, because we were a Latin boy band based out of Puerto Rico. So that was really cool. And Menudo was one of the first Latin acts to like really open the doors for all of the Latin singers that we have today.
And
so
talking about the size of auditoriums that Michael Jackson would play to. It was
right. Giant football stadiums
and he was the main singer. So you have to know, is Mars and Leo, the three planets in the fifth house, the natural performer that came with the voice, and they singled him out of school, and he went and auditioned. It didn't take for a minute for them to say, that guy can dance.
Okay. My favorite song was Imagine. I sung Imagine from John Lennon. And at the time, my favorite song to dance to was The Groove is in the Heart.
So Gemini. It's just ridiculous how Gemini and Mars and Leo this man is. So off he went to this group, and this was a very interesting part of his story because there was a lot of scandal around it. And if you watch the documentary, the character who was running the show, who was a gay man, had not such good motives. And you smelled it and said, no. Can you describe that story?
Right. Well, it was a time where I think a lot of Latin men were just really in the closet and really, all this internalized homophobia. There wasn't the language, there wasn't. And I like to say, one of the things that we're learning as we open and as we become spiritual and as we learn about our charts and learn about ourselves is that, we get to take responsibility for who we are. And if we don't meet the discomfort of our trauma, that discomfort inevitably gets displaced. And so this man had a lot of unmet trauma, had a lot of unmet fears, a lot of insecurity, projected a lot of homophobia, especially onto me, because I was so open and free about who I was, even as a youngster.
Because did you know you were gay so young?
I did, yeah.
When did you figure it out?
Well, I just kind of always knew. I remember being 6 years old and wanting to play dolls with my girlfriends. And the reason why I chose girlfriends was that they had the biggest doll collection. It was so crazy. But I didn't want to play football with my boyfriends. I wanted to kiss them.
So it showed up very young. What's your family deal? Like, was it?
My family, well, my father was in the closet till he passed away. He died of AIDS. And I think AIDS was a physical expression, a manifestation of the shame that he held and the fear that he held, never not getting a chance to be himself. So I just felt like he was my personal Jesus, like he sacrificed his whole life in a way for me to recognize and say, okay, these are the things I love and want to keep about who my father was. And this is something I want to change and do differently in my life. So I came out when I was 17. And there was fear around it because they all were like, you're going to die.
Tell them about your family. Like, listen to this. He has, what's your background?
Yeah. So my father's Cuban and Irish and African. And my mother is born in the States, Italian grandmother, English, Irish grandfather.
He's a mixed bag.
Mixed stuff.
But speaks Spanish as his primary language. Was that true growing up?
Well, I mean, both. My father, when they got to this country, my grandparents didn't want any of their kids to know Spanish. They wanted them to be totally gringos, to be totally Americanized, because of all the discrimination and all that. They really wanted them to move ahead in life. So they didn't speak Spanish, even though they were Cuban. So by the time I came around,
they didn't speak Spanish. He wasn't allowed to be gay. He has Uranus in the midheaven. He wanted nothing but freedom and authenticity, double Gemini. And he was under the effect by his upbringing. And so many of you are under the effect of your karma from your upbringing. That's the perfect fit for you to break the shell, to open up the door, to slice it. So you were perfectly positioned.
That feels really good. It's beautiful because we start recognizing that, oh my goodness.
It was a setup.
Everything is medicine. Everything serves, right? Everything it happens
for a reason. It's not misorganized, said the astrologer. Okay, so now your dad got AIDS and you've come out, and there's this man who's running this organization.
Right. And by the time I got into the group, there were already rumors and there was a whole TV show. My first TV show was a TV show called Cristina. She was like the Spanish Oprah. And my first show ever at 14 years old was about the scandals of ex-Menudos coming forward about the abuse. But of course, we were just getting into the group. And at the time, everyone just didn't listen to people, didn't listen to victims, didn't listen. It was kind of like, you're just saying that for the money.
Because people love that group, boy. That group had such adoration around the world, and they were just put on a pedestal. So when reality was there, it was like, do we have to talk about this?
Exactly. People could not handle it. And we also wanted to believe it as well. So I kind of feel like that we had a buffer the first 2 years, but then afterwards, you know, my manager's old ways started coming into play. And
his boyfriend.
Right. So I, at 17, had my first boyfriend. I broke up with a girlfriend that I was with as soon as I knew that I was in love with this guy, because I was like, I'm not living a double life. I am
Not
so
doing
that was really hard to break up with her. And then I started this relationship, but then my manager all of a sudden falls in love with my first boyfriend. So my manager, who, you know, total abuse of power, he starts taking us all out to dinner and to the movies. And I'm like, why does my manager want to hang out with my friends? And then he wanted to take us all out on a vacation. So me and a bunch of my friends, and he took us out on vacation, and he wanted to sleep in the same bed with my boyfriend. My boyfriend was like, no, 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 I don't want to sleep with this man. And then another friend said he'd do it. And when this manager found out that it wasn't the guy that he was in love with in the bed, he went crazy and started screaming. And he left the hotel room, and we were just kids in this hotel room, and everyone was like, you got to go talk to him. I went and I spoke to him
Designated
in the car,
driver, the Capricorn rising.
listening, right. And he's crying, you know, as if he was a little child that just got broken up with on the playground, and saying things like, why doesn't he love me? Why doesn't he trust me? And then all of a sudden he tells me, well, you know, all the things you've heard about me, all the rumors you've heard about me throughout the years, I just want to tell you that 99% of them are true. So having to hold that while still being under contract with this man, I had 2 more years in my contract. It was a rough 2 years.
So this is the beginning. We're just doing that story to show you that the entrance, like all of you, we have these grist for the mill, like the polishing process that comes straight in, and it disrupts everything because you're so disillusioned. And then you became the designated driver to say, no, leave us alone, and I will not play. Right. And you got discriminated against.
Absolutely. And then I was punished. And then I was punished for the next 2 years. But yeah, I was also really grateful because by that time I had a profound experience in Machu Picchu. Right after my father passed away, we went to Machu Picchu to film a music video called Bienvenidos al Nuevo Mundo, which means welcome to the new world. Imagine that. That's the name of the song, Welcome to the New World. And I totally had one of these moments when you were talking about Neptune earlier and about revealing the illusion. And I had one of those moments where as soon as I stepped off of the helicopter, imagine I'm flying through the Andes in a helicopter to go to Machu Picchu. We land to film this music video. And as soon as I step on the ground, everything that I knew about myself, about life, every description, every definition, every dictionary took a backseat, disappeared, dissolved. And all that was left in its place was this clear, vast, spacious, loving, unwavering vastness, this presence. And
tell them, just you guys take that out. Just imagine you get off this helicopter. You're how old?
I was 16.
And suddenly a door opens and the veil drops.
Right. The veil totally drops. And I could still see that there was a llama and ruins and producer and TV and my other members. But it was so clear in that moment. I wasn't seeing it through the filter of my believed persona or of my character. It was just recognizing that everything was empty of an independent nature. Nothing was separate, pure inseparability, and that all expression, and for me in that moment, separation was but the confetti of an infinite wholeness celebrating itself as the confetti of the illusion of separation. I was doing a music video, so I had to sing. And no matter how loud I sung, each note announced the presence of an unwavering silence. And in that moment, silence was no longer the opposite of sound, but it was the ground of being. That sound served as the exaltation of unwavering silence. And then we were a Latin boy band, so our movements were like, and no matter how fast I moved, no matter how hard I gyrated, it was so clear that each movement was the celebration of an unwavering stillness. So it was like, oh my goodness, unshakable vastness. No matter how much I shake, no matter how loud I sing, no matter how much stuff appears to appear, Everything is but the evidence of unwavering peace.
See what I mean? He's got double Gemini. You're a wordsmith. Okay, so we just got access at 16 years old to this unbelievable experience, which set you into another conversation. Like it changed your whole.
It's completely changed. Well, at that moment, I knew the innocence of humanity. I think that was the biggest gift in terms of living in this world.
Claimed you're innocent.
The innocence. It's like if we imagine what we imagine, there's no way that we can do anything differently. And if I believe the same thing that this person believed, or had the same chart that that person had, that, you know, it's kind of like we know until we don't, and we do better until we, you know, it's that whole thing, forgive them for they not know what they do. And there was a softening because callous was starting to form. Cynicism, strategies of protection. This is a horrible world. This is a scary world. People are out to get me. I'm not safe. I'm not safe. I'm not safe. And I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't even protect myself. A lot of fear. And then all of that softened.
He just said. And that just, it like melted.
It melted. It melted in that recognition of just like, oh, wow, the only thing that is real. I know it's a bumper sticker on a Prius, but it's real. It's like love is the only thing that's real. Everything else comes and goes as a beginning, middle, and end, a flash. Love is real.
And this is where he lives. So now imagine he's this young, he's in Peru. And then how does the plant medicine enter the picture?
Well, I started sharing this experience and people were telling me I'm crazy. Don't share it. Don't share it. I think in one interview or something on the radio, I talked a little bit about it. And then as I was coming down and we would go, there'd be like all these girls at the fence with all these gifts and whatnot. And we'd sign autographs and say hello. One of the girls grabbed me through the fence, like she put her hands through the fence and grabbed my shirt. And she said, my uncle's a shaman. Tengo un tío que es un chamán. And I know what you're talking about. And I was like, what? So I don't know how we exchanged information. And all of a sudden, she's sneaking me out of a hotel in the trunk of her car to go do my first plant medicine ceremony. It was with San Pedro. I thought I was going to go. I didn't know where I was going to go, but it was a little tiny room behind a car body shop in the middle of downtown Lima. El Centro, the center of Lima. Car body shop, behind it, tiny room that was just full of beautiful shamanic shipibo things. And we did a San Pedro ceremony. And the plant medicine was just another, this is where the word permission slip started appearing. It was another permission slip for one to relax the trance of separation, relax the trance of cause and effect, relax the trance of time, and to really notice, turn up the volume of what's always singing, turn up the volume of the music of the cosmos, the music of harmony and inseparability. And in that moment, the sentence came to me of every atom is in its place. Every thought is in its place. It was like there was nothing out of place. And that was really sweet. And then I had to go back in the trunk to go back to the hotel. And while I was in the trunk, it felt like a complete galaxy. It was like an experience of like, no matter how tight the situation.
He's straight, you guys. This is what he's like all the time. I just want to say, this is like him telling a story about San Pedro, but I want you to know something. This is what he's like. So I hitchhike. I'm including all of you. That's why we're doing this podcast. Yeah. I want you to hitchhike. Let's just pretend these stars are all above your head and you're sitting with Debra and Ash, and we're inviting you to reduce your attachment to the world as you know it and start opening up your mind as an echo to what he's saying.
I love that.
Oh my God. Well, that's what I've been doing ever since I met you. I feel like I'm cheating. I feel like I got the cheat sheet and I'm sitting next to the cheat sheet and I just like, I'm with him. I'm with them. What did he say? Me too. I'll take two of those.
So fun.
Okay. So then how does the San Pedro move you to the Aya? How did Aya come in?
Wow. So then I heard about Aya that night. They were like, San Pedro's awesome.
That's another medicine. Some of you may not know.
Right. Another plant medicine, profound plant medicine. And then the shaman just said, she'll find you. When I was like, well, do you have any of that? I was like, do you have any ayahuasca? Like, can I come back on Wednesday? And he's like, no, she'll find you. And so after finally, when my contract was up, and usually when you're in a Latin boy band, you usually go on to record a new album, a Latin album. I wasn't interested in anything in the music business. I wasn't interested in, or I got offered to do some soap operas, and that would have been fun, but I just wanted to explore what happened to me.
Destiny was directing his show, not his ego.
Thank you. Yeah, it felt like that. And also I could see through the facade, all these people that had all the apparent things. What was it that Jim Carrey said? I wish everyone can experience what fame is at least once, so they know that it doesn't mean what we think it means. And so these beloveds were treating their waiters and waitresses like shit. And it was like, I don't want to be that when I grow up. What can I do differently? I go back to Peru, and I'm there for 2 years. And all of a sudden I go from Cusco to, I do the Machu Picchu, the Inca Trail. And then I go to like Jauja and Huancayo, way up in the Andes Mountains, and these other little towns. And then I end up in Iquitos, which is in the rainforest, right on the Amazon River. And I would walk by this pharmacy that had this pet monkey, and I love this monkey. And this monkey was sometimes like on the floor drunk or like smoking a cigarette. And so I'd tell the lady, maybe you can put a sign for people to only give the monkey carrots or some fruit. Or I was just like, oh, this poor monkey is like totally. So anyway, she said, ¿La quieres llevar? You want to take him? And so she gives me this monkey. I have a monkey. So all of a sudden I'm in Iquitos. I'm 20 years old. I have a pet monkey. The first 3 days were total honeymoon bliss. This monkey was the sweetest thing ever. And then on the 4th day, I wake up and I feel his weight on my chest. And I'm sleeping on my back and I feel him sitting in my chest. And I think, I'm going to open my eyes and I'm going to stare into this monkey's eyes. And it's going to be a full-on namaste moment. The God in me recognizes and greets the God in you. And it was not that at all.
The monkey was monkey mind.
Monkey mind, right. As soon as the monkey saw my eyes open, he started screaming and scratching at my face and just going crazy. And so I put the monkey in the blanket. I was able to wrap him up in the blanket, put him in the bathroom, close the door. I go to the woman and she hands me a bottle of Sprite. And I'm like, what? She's like, oh, the monkey's addicted to Sprite. So this monkey was addicted to Sprite. And sure enough, as soon as I got home, I went, Sss, and he was going crazy in the bathroom. And as soon as I went, Sss, the monkey stopped.
He heard
the sound of the opening of the Sprite. And then I thought, I'll take him to the vet and see if we can do something about this addiction. While I'm at a veterinarian's office,
This is where it gets crazy.
I'm sitting there in this veterinarian's office, and I'm sitting and I'm meditating. I was so in love. It was like this time of like what people call samadhi, absorption, just so in love with total stillness, total silence. And then this couple walks in, and they were like blonde hair and blue eyes, and they sit down, and they had an animal that they brought in, and they're sitting there, and the woman looks at me and she says, I sense a deep silence. And I said, yes, there is a deep silence here. And we started talking. And then in our conversation, she then says, we're anthropologists from Amsterdam, and we'd love to invite you to come with us to meet an indigenous tribe called the Shuar. And
he's sitting in the waiting room, and she just invited him
to do ayahuasca.
In the name of the tribe is
Shuar. It was the Peruvian Shuar, because there's an Ecuadorian Shuar, and they were at war with each other. And I did not know any of this until we're doing a 2-day trek to go and meet these beloveds.
And you're 20.
And I'm 20. I just turned 20 years old.
So now get ready. So now he's been invited at the vet with the monkey to go to an ayahuasca journey, which for those of you that don't know, it's an ancient source that's used in the Peruvian. It's used a lot in South America and in Peru. And it's a medicine that alters the mind and opens up the heart so that the grandmothers or the other wisdom keepers that you can't see become your source. And so it's a difficult journey. It requires you to take some quiet time. It can make you very nauseous, and it's got to be done under the effect of a very high level shaman who knows the land, the territory. So where did he start off? The real thing.
No. And this was in 1996, before there was any ecotourism in that area. It was so profound. And my intention for the journey, which I didn't know what an intention was. The word, I knew that I was making intentions my whole life, but the actual word, I was like, oh, there's a word for it. And what I heard come out of my mouth was to be willing to lose everything to see what cannot be lost. And that's sure enough what the journey was.
The willingness to lose everything
to see what cannot be lost.
What 20-year-old, like,
very
sourced.
Yeah, very strange.
Okay, so off he goes on this ayahuasca journey.
Right. So I'm on this ayahuasca journey, super profound. There was a moment that I would look at my hands and they would age and decay, and the flesh would fall off the bones, and the bones would turn to ash and dust, and then they'd reappear, new hands. And I'd look around and the whole jungle would just fall and disappear and then regrow, and the sun and the moon, and I'm like, this is a really amazing stuff, and how do I recreate this? And as my mind was trying to understand what was going on, and as my mind was clinging to something that comes and goes, there was a little voice inside of me that said, yeah, this is cool. You're seeing all the dimensions, you're speaking to all the ancestors, and you're seeing all the different realms, and you're seeing the energetic grid that connects all of existence. But what about this moment is the same? What about this moment is the same when you're making toast? What about this moment is the same when you're tying your shoe, when you're feeling happy, when you're watching TV, when you're on a roller coaster, when you're sad, and that was a moment of an anchor, full on recognition. Oh my goodness, I am this aware, unwavering intelligence.
I am this aware, unwavering intelligence. So stop there for a minute. So basically, I'm going to do it again. Hitchhiking. I am an unmovable. What was the very first one? The one that happened.
Unshakable vastness.
Unshakable vastness. I am unshakable vastness. So he's absorbed these one-liners that have become the fabric of his own consciousness, so that it never goes away.
I can't shake it off. And it's so sweet in the poem where it says, those moments are this moment. Those moments are this moment. It's like each moment, Machu Picchu, the rainforest, each ceremony, it's like, it's still.
There's no separation to the moment being fully. Okay, so this is his gift. And now coming soon to your neighborhood is the invitation that you can. Now, how does it go? So then from that point, the Aya got you.
Mm-hmm.
Then you went back to, you weren't done yet.
Well,
at 20, that's right, you were done.
Right. And so I stayed there for a little while, and the shaman would just have me sit in front of people, like they would be on their journey, and then we'd have a moment where we'd eye gaze. And
your Neptune would track the other person.
Right. And this is where I love to share with beloveds, that body will feel the medicine. Papa G said something along the lines of imaginary medicine for imaginary disease, talking about mind, but it's the same with any psychotropic substance. Doesn't matter if it's psilocybin or ibogaine. Mind has the experience, sensations have the experience. What can have an experience, but the awareness of you never touched by the medicine. Right.
It never moves. So if you can identify outside of your chart, this is what I call the 13th sign.
Like, I love
there's the 12 signs and all the outward, but there's a 13th sign. We call it the observer, the soul, who stands apart from that and is the constant.
Yes.
And once you're identified, then all the outworkings that happen here become entertainment for your soul. Like, oh my goodness, you wouldn't believe what they did today.
Yes,
this is the coolest story I've ever heard. And so when you find a lightened spirit, or when you're sitting in a podcast going, that's such an interesting thought. I can exist beyond the illusion and the rumors. I love that I've been told about this, Rhea. I can actually hold my truth to be the constant. And when you become sourceful, a resource of your own truth, because you've separated yourself from the illusion slicer, then the whole thing gets easy. Now, you made it very easy because you started off so young. 6 years old, he had his first enlightenment experience. So don't compare yourself to Mr. Smarty Pants, double Gemini. I have had a much longer journey than he has. I'm a grown up. I could be his mom, we found out.
Amazing.
That's the craziest thing.
Fabulous.
That's like a joke.
So
Time travelers, we don't get caught in time. But the real invitation is, in this moment, as you're listening to this podcast, the I Don't Believe in Astrology podcast, reduce your mental construct for a minute. Take a breath. Let's do it together. and breathe out simple. Just simplicity. Just that simple present moment. And let that start to invade. Let that take over your awareness. Simplicity of this moment. That's it. Now, when that becomes a practice where you can count on yourself in the middle of trauma to go back to the simple present moment, the whole movie changes. And that's what you do. You seem to have that gift of living there.
It's such a joy. Well, what's so sweet is that we all live there, and some of us are just noticing it in our own adventurous time, in our own
storyline.
Yeah.
But then tell us about what you do now for work, like how this is translated into your present day gift.
Right. So the medicine that I share is of what is always here, is of beingness, is of clarity, is the well-being that can never be interrupted. And one of my favorite permission slips to invite people to get familiar with the medicine of being, with the medicine of what is through plant medicine. And so now I do ayahuasca ceremonies, retreats with my dear friend Gervais.
Is it legal?
It is ayahuasca. We have a church. It's called Leaf and Divine, and now they've made it where if it's under a church, it is exempt from the different legalities of things, and also now in Colorado, where they're decriminalized, not just psilocybin but also ayahuasca falls under that camp. So in Colorado,
which is where we live. He lives in Colorado as well.
Right.
So people come together and you do a practice. And he's also a counselor because I hired him as soon as I met him. I was like, I'm going to work with you. It didn't take long for me to figure it out. I was like, oh, I get it.
I know.
It didn't take me long. I was like,
it was beautiful.
I get it.
Just the confirmation.
It suddenly didn't feel so weird anymore. It's like that story you told when you were on the radio telling them about what happened in Peru, and they were like, what? That was a story so much of my life and now in the public, for all of you watching, being an astrologer or talking about ayahuasca is now acceptable in our society. Right. Where once being gay or being an astrologer or doing medicine, that was all shh. Yeah. Notice the change, the evolution. And thank God. And we are in the process of, and this is what I really want to say, our world is shape-shifting. It's being asked to break down, as you described, in the emergence of a new one. And there's nothing to be afraid of if you have this present moment to simplify and drop into and just find home there. Then in the middle of home is Om.
In the middle of home is Om. I love that so much.
And so if you are willing in this moment, listening to this podcast, to consider the drama in your life, the storyline that is distracting and that is compelling and that is really, it's got so much to it. It is simply an invitation by your soul to see if you can find the muscle to use that storyline to bring you home. But it's such a hard thing to do without role models. And part of the gift of having Ash Ruiz is that he's an embodiment this lifetime. His destiny, no uncertain terms, carried him with this Capricorn. He's so serious about it, but he's so funny. But it doesn't waver. He doesn't waver. This is what you see is what you get. I've been living with him now for a few weeks, and I'm like, oh my God, you wake up in the morning with that big fat smile. What's so funny?
What's so funny?
He's always laughing. Welcome to Double Gemini. Okay. So what I want to say to all of you is, if there's a part of your story right now which is very compelling, and I'm not here to dismiss or diminish or reduce the attachments we have to our stories, because I love stories. Yes, and in the middle of the story is the narrator. Mm-hmm. And the narrator lives in your mind wrapped up as an ego. Mm-hmm. Until you tell the ego to sit down and you give yourself permission to come into the present moment, new awareness, which is what you've learned from your teachers. Tell us the teachers you've had.
Oh my goodness. Gangaji, I call her my yes. When I came back from Peru, longing for confirmation, to hear another human being speak to the simplicity of what's here. It was so beautiful. Someone invited me to a video satsang. And in the video, she literally said, if I'm appearing in your consciousness, it's to simply say yes. And I heard that yes so deeply and was like, yay, there's other human beings recognizing the option of kindness, and kindness internal, kindness to our own thoughts, our own feelings, because that ends the war with our thoughts having to be a different way, or our feelings, or our bodies, or our circumstance. It's just kind of like pure loving acceptance. And I was just like, this is so kind. That's why I love everything spiritual, everything awakening, all because it allows for a human being to be my favorite word, which is available. And when a human being is available, there's nothing more powerful.
Why does that make me so happy?
Isn't it so sweet? It
makes me want to cry. I don't know how the illusion, Mr. Illusion Slicer, got so thick and the truth got so thin.
And it just only seems that way in the illusion.
But the illusion has so much loud voice. It shows up every day in like television, the music, the videos, the social media. We talk about illusion. Just seems like it's got a much better deal with the marketing.
Right. But what's so much fun is that no matter how much we call it illusion, like how many things have you seen on the screen today? Like you're seeing us on the screen. Hello, dee-da-dee-dee-doo-doo. And you've maybe seen cat videos and waterfalls and dances and who knows what else on your screen. But you're not looking at that thing. You're still just seeing the screen. Same with appearances. No matter how much we think we're seeing illusion, we're still just seeing consciousness. It's the only ingredient in the cosmos is consciousness.
Small moments.
Small. Oh, my other dear beloved teacher, Candace O'Denver, ZG Rinpoche. She has a saying that I love to say all the time.
We love it.
We love it. Yes, we do. She says,
I wrote it down immediately.
Short moments of awareness repeated many times reveals itself to be continuous.
Short moments of awareness.
Or if Ram Dass was saying
repeated many times,
right,
repeats itself,
reveals
itself
to be continuous. If Ram Dass was saying it, he'd say, loving awareness, loving I am loving awareness, repeated many times, reveals itself to be continuous.
It's just the truth.
The more you get familiar.
This is a funny thing. It sounded like a little bit of an abstract sentence, but I've used it so many times ever since that back to what I said, take a breath and enter the simplicity of just the present moment and practice it. So this is what they call meditation, which for Geminis is impossible. Like I watch him, he can meditate. We're very short and quick So don't think meditation requires 3 years of living inside of a temple where you're not seeing anybody and you're eating carrots. Like that's just dumb. I mean, maybe it works for somebody, but it doesn't work for Geminis.
And it doesn't have to be for everyone. That's what's so beautiful. That's what I love about short moments.
That's what I love about astrology.
It's a microdose and astrology.
A microdose.
A
microdose of your flavor and honoring you. I think we're coming to an end. I don't even know what time. How about that? I don't even know what time we started.
That's so great. I don't either.
2 little Geminis sitting in a screen doing a podcast for you and me. Okay, so the point of this whole conversation today is he accessed an enlightened consciousness and then had his teachers, many of them, who continued to echo and rebound, like, yes, he resound that same voice. And then when I met him, it reminded me so much of me, and it was so liberating, like, wait a minute, if you can do it, I can do it. It was kind of like I'd been in the closet, everything from my fascination with ETs to my belief in the simplicity. And I thought, we both have Mercury and Taurus. I used to think something was wrong with me because it all seemed so simple. I thought, am I like, either I'm really dumb or I'm really smart? Which is it?
Which is it?
It all seems so simple. Like if I could just stop complaining, if I could just move into gratitude and stay there. Now that sounds like a really simple premise. And all he does is be thankful. That's all he does. And he makes the best food.
Oh, thank you. That's cooking.
It's Capricorn. Okay. And Jupiter and Taurus. So all this is to say, this podcast is, Ash has had a very strong path. He still sings. We're going to have him sing before we finish. He's going to be part of our community in the Spanish-speaking book. We're hoping this podcast will get translated. That would be super
that'd be
cool.
Really beautiful, yeah.
And we continue, and we continue to suggest to you that this lifetime you're preparing for your next one. So if you and I and Ash continue to evolve into the level where we're freed of this bondage of the old constructs that the mind say, think about the next lifetime if you came in with a new wiring system, which is why he got enlightened at 6. For me, it was 15, because I just finished doing it like a minute ago before I got here.
Okay.
So the memory it's called recapitulating. The memory was in my psyche. And as soon as I touched what I would call the abstract reality, where this physical plane does not hold us hostage, but we're actually able to go between the worlds. As soon as it happened, I was like, oh my God, that was the most, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I felt like I fell in love, because it's the definition of being in love. Can I let myself let go of my illusion that I'm in control. Like we're both out of control. You cannot tell us what to do. We just follow the moment,
ecstasy,
and we laugh until it hurts.
I love that.
Okay, will you sing us a song?
I would love to, yeah. Even though I sing and I love to sing, what's really coming up for me is a poem called Infinity Smith. Oh, yeah, yeah. Sacred geometry, watch it fly out of me. Sonic astronomy, this is vocal alchemy. Toning my way into Ganesha's balcony. The view from in here is a Celestine prophecy. Angels with microphones, goddesses sing. Lakshmi's ascending on butterfly wings. Cosmic disclosures about identity. The only life here is the one listening. The only life here is the one listening. Listen so sweetly that you disappear. Listen so clearly until you're not here. Not here as a thought, not here as a body, not here as the one trying to get to the party, because right where you are without changing a thing is the one celebration, the only big bang. You've never not been the pure presence of love. You cannot experience there's not enough, for atoms keep flying right out of God's pocket. It's your face on the ID that God has in her wallet. No need to say it, but I'm going to call it. You've always been you and you've always been balling. Your name is Abundance Jackson. Your name is Prosperity Jenkins. Your name is Infinity Smith, exalting the reality of indescribable bliss. Your name is Galosme Gonzalez. Your name is Garismi Ruiz. Your name is the sacred, immeasurable beauty that brings everything here to its knees. Confusion. Confusion's not just for the wealthy. Confusion's not just for the poor. Confusion's but the unquestioned assumption that this moment should be something more this, more that, more Cadillacs, pure imagination. When maybe not tending to the here and now contributes to global devastation. Maybe not taking the time to invest in the silence found in meditation gives rise to the hurt and the pain we inflict on ourselves. Misidentification, skin lines. Timelines, them there lines drawn on a map. The only word I can find to rhyme with the assumptions aligns is crap. The you, me that gives rise to destinies has only ever existed as flashing possibilities. A thought in the mind of God, a God in the mind of thought. It's a good thing this here golden perfection has never ever once been caught up in mental aberration. Thank heavens for evaporation, for the ingredients of separation can't survive the shine of this here confirmation. Your name is Abundance Jackson. Your name is Prosperity Jenkins. Your name is Infinity Smith, exalting the reality of indescribable bliss. Your name is Galasme Gonzalez. Your name is Garismi Ruiz. Your name is the sacred, immeasurable beauty that brings everything here to its knees. Your name is the sacred, immeasurable beauty that brings everything here to its knees.
Oh my God. How did that happen? It just came through you?
It just came all right on through.
No, like how long did it take to come through you?
Wow, a lot of the times they come through, it just comes through, and I get to be, my
And
body
you
gets to
read
be
all-
a secretary. I get to say, oh, okay, yes, all right, did that too, okay. Prosperity who? Okay. Yay, that's why I love being available. It's so sweet that we get to be available to the brilliance we are, the love we are, the poetry we are, the dance we are, the universe we are, the star stuff we are.
You make it sound so easy. I wish it was that easy. I mean, I, as a Gemini, but I think for a lot of people, you're going to listen to this and you're going to think to yourself, how did they get there? What allows him to continually have a stream of joy? What prevents me from being captured by the illusion that is so convincing? And once you can answer those questions, and this podcast actually served you to consider plant medicine, I want you to know this. I don't feel comfortable with plant medicine. I've done it, and I want to say it's not my path. And for others, it's essential to disrupt the continual illusion. And without that disruption, there's no other way to loosen the grip. Now, personally, my grip's kind of loose, said the Gemini-to-Gemini. He doesn't use it either. It's like we can't afford because we're already a little bit crazy. But I want to just say to you, everyone in this room has a permission slip. That's the language we use in our school.
Oh, I love
That's
that.
all I do is give out permission
That
slips.
is so beautiful.
So all of you have a permission slip to find your way. But this is what we've done today. We've reminded you of the tone of what it sounds like when the attention is in the name of joy and love, authenticity and ease. And that's what we live. So you can imagine my delight meeting Ash, my delight in sharing him with you. I've been waiting to do
delight.
this. I know, like a sister. Like we feel like, I feel like it's funny to say that.
It is
But
so
maybe,
sweet.
maybe we did know each
Maybe
other.
we did. I know.
Why don't we know that?
I don't know,
We
but
could
I'm
just-
glad we know it now.
I feel like we have. Because if nothing else, we share a common perception
Right.
that allows consciousness to liberate us.
And celebrate us.
And then we give
Yeah.
that to our beloved. He calls everybody the beloved. I'm like, is everybody your beloved? Yeah, beloved, beloved, beloved. So I'm just gonna say, I do the same to my beloveds. I give them access through my experience, and your meeting you allowed me to recognize it myself. And rather than leaving it misunderstood or vague, it suddenly got so distilled. Like, that's what I do. I felt such relief.
So
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Our
Makes
very
me
first
so
encounter, I
happy.
cried and cried and cried. The freedom of his emotional acceptance of us being all that we are. So,
Oh,
Diane Israel, thank you for
thank
introducing
you,
us.
Diane Israel. I love you.
Thank you to all of you for listening. A podcast,
Thank
Deborah
you
Silverman.
all. Hello.
And please go look at Ash. He's called Illusion Slicer on Instagram. Anywhere else they can find you?
My goodness. Well, on Facebook, Ash Ruiz, my website, ashruiz.com. Feel free to say hello. Feel free to explore.
You're going to
I
make a
do
lot of new
Aya
friends.
ceremonies once a month in Boulder, Colorado. Reach out to me at that. Go to leafandivine.org if you want more
LEAF.
information. LEAF. Divine, DE. Yeah, Leaf
No.
and Divine.
DIVINE.
DEVINE.
Silly. Don't listen to him as a Gemini. You just make sure every once in a while I have to, like, elevators showed up that there was no elevator. Like sometimes his Neptune gets a little bit, but Mercury's in Taurus, he comes right back. So you can find him, Ash Ruiz, ASHRUIZ.
Right.
Okay, that was just fun. I don't know how long we were here, but I swear we could keep on going.
Thank you so much for listening. We want to keep this conversation going with you, so please subscribe to our podcast and leave a rating and review to make sure you never miss an episode. Remember, climate activist by day, human by night. Send Deborah a DM on Instagram at Deborah Silverman Astrology and visit DeborahSilvermanAstrology.com. And we're going to leave you like we leave every single episode. Make it your mission to change the world.